Welcome to the Givology Impact Series podcast, in which we share the experiences of social entrepreneurs and change makers around the world. Today, we're going to be talking about the Happy Kids Center, which is a safe space in which children affected by the 2015 Boktapuhr earthquake have the opportunity to learn and be creative. I'm Delaney, joined by my co-host Vandana. We are also joined by Ellen Carney, who is connected to both Givology and the Happy Kids Center. Today, we are honored to have guest Nicole Heker on our call. Nicole studied communications, arts, and sciences at Penn State University. She went on to teach English in Thailand for 1 year and in Nepal for a few months. She is currently teaching English in Korea until she can sustain herself financially long enough to focus on the Happy Kids Center without taking any money away from it. After Korea, she will head back to the center to train a new coordinator so that the center can move towards being Nepali run and managed. How are you, Nicole?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for that introduction.
Great. So can you share with us the story of Happy Kids Center's founding and mission?
Sure. So the Happy Kids Center was created after the 2015 earthquake, which left 9,000 people killed and 22,000 people in Nepal injured. So this earthquake happened in the Kathmandu Valley area and specifically affected Boktapuhr and the Durbar Square and pretty much leveled the city. And as you know, children are usually the people that are most affected by these kinds of events. So our three founders, Joanna, Kevin, and Chris, were in Nepal after the earthquake and trying to figure out a way to lend a helping hand, which is when they saw this incredible need for a space for kids to just be kids. So with the help of local activists and community members and donors from all over the world, they came together and built this Peter Pan land bamboo structure that has become the Happy Kids Center.
And what has Happy Kids Center become since its founding? What have you accomplished?
Oh man, so the Happy Kids Center has been on a crazy ride for 2 years. So what started as just kind of this this Peter Pan land bamboo structure, you know, full of toys and games and anything that would facilitate kind of like an expressive childhood, has kind of turned and morphed more into more of like a flagpole for the community in a sense. We're the ones that people kind of come to if they need extra clothes or if they need any type of outside support for any holidays, for any festivals. We're kind of just like their outside home and support system in the community. So, I mean, we've accomplished so much, starting with the rebuilding of the structure. So what was once just bamboo is now plastered all around the outside bottom edges to protect it and make it a long-term structure, because in Nepal, you know, they have the 4 seasons just like everywhere else, but or at most places, but they're subject to a lot of flooding. So just, you know, making sure that the structure would be forever or for as long as possible was a huge goal. Other than that, just, you know, making sure that our organization is set up for as sustainably as possible, and kind of just soul searching a little bit as an organization and trying to find our identity. So we have built an online community and presence that has really driven this organization, and done a lot of fundraising and asking questions and immersing ourselves fully in this beautiful community that we've, you know, gotten a chance to be a part of. But in addition to that, we have gotten 2 girls in school, thanks to Ellen, who you guys will hear from shortly, and also instating food days. So we raised enough money to provide nutritious, large amounts of food for the community, for the kids in our community, 2 times a month, which is just, you know, baffles me that we are able to even come that far. For a lot of these kids, it's the only nutrition that they really get. So, I mean, we're obviously hoping to expand that, but for now, that's like such a huge win. And lastly is the educational programs. So we have kind of been approaching alternative education. Finding their voice through photography, through an ESL curriculum that's been established, independent learning from our library, and things like this. And we're always searching for more ways to engage these kids in a different way, because for some of them, more formal education is at this point out of their reach. So doing as much as we can in the time that we have and the place that we have.
Yeah, that's great. So today's podcast is focused on the development and the struggles of startup nonprofits. So what encouraged you guys to start your organization, and what do you find are the benefits of a smaller organization compared to like a bigger one?
Sure. So I think with the founders, they got to Nepal and they saw a need, and I think that they just kind of went for it. And with that comes, a lot of complications and struggles that we've definitely encountered along the way because of that. For example, just kind of finding our voice and making sure that we're as sustainable and fluid and integrated with the community as possible. However, I think the benefit of being our independent organization is really that we can just tailor to the needs of our community and our kids, and we can find our own voice in the community and contribute and change. I think adaptability is huge with these kinds of organizations. I mean, we've grown from 15 kids to 80 kids, and have crossed caste systems within that. So for us to be able to use the money that we raise the way we see fit, and to engage with the community in different ways and kind of change our identity and our community needs as we go, I think is a huge benefit to being a smaller organization. I know every kid's name, all the volunteers, we know every kid's name, we know their stories, we know where they live, we are so connected to these people. And I think that while some larger organizations have a lot of benefits, the benefit of ours is that it really feels like more of a family than anything else.
Building off of that, we're really lucky. The woman who is actually at the center, every single day, all year round, is Chidani Diola, and she is a local Nepali girl. She's 22 or 23 years old now, so the same age as us. And she's also a full-time teacher at the local Diola school as well. And having her as kind of, the go-to person in our community has made it so much easier for us to connect and understand the community in different ways as outsiders coming in. Sometimes it's really tricky. There's a lot that we don't understand about the culture, especially like Nicole said, with the caste system. I'm not sure how much you guys know, or the listeners know about the caste system. It's not something that is officially intact, but it's definitely kind of a social hierarchy that has a major presence and major influence on the lives of everyone who lives within it, whether you're at the top or the bottom of this caste system. So there's a lot about it that we have a hard time kind of wrapping our minds around, and there's a lot of privilege that we have coming into these communities, and sometimes we're looked at in really strange ways, and it's so important that we have someone who's at home in this community and who can help us out and make sure that we, I don't want to say know our place, but that we know the kind of roles in the community, and that we make sure that we're not offending anyone or overstepping our bounds, or just making sure that we know how to communicate in these communities. So we're really lucky that we have her, and I think that's what makes us so strong as a small organization, is that we really do have grassroots, because Chidani and her family are at the core of our center. They're the heart of the center.
Yeah.
And for those meal days that we have, and those are once a week. It's Chidani's mother who cooks all the food along with some other local women. And Chidani's father is on the school board, of the local school. So, we're really lucky to have them. They really are at the the heart of what helps us function, because myself and Nicole and Joyce, who is the head of our finance, we're around as much as we can hope to be, but with visas and with, other parts of our life, we can't always be there. So, it really wouldn't run without Chidani.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really amazing. You guys are clearly really involved in the community, and it's just an amazing charity. And before creating the center, how did you and your partners approach researching the effectiveness of your programs pre-implementation? In other words, like, how did you qualitatively choose what programs the Happy Kids Center would provide so that they can make the most impact on the children? Or did you choose a more unconventional route and just experiment as you go?
So the Happy Kids Center actually started a little bit unorthodox because of the circumstances after the earthquake and the limited time that the founders had because of visas, etc. So really, with the help of, as I said, the community and the local activists and volunteers, it was kind of built, and there's been some trials and errors along the way. But we've made a pretty good point since the first time I arrived to ask the parents what they think our role should be. So we've hosted a few parents meetings where actually mostly only the mothers will come, and we'll have some duchia tea and some cookies, and invite some. We invited the board of the principal of a local school to come and speak, and a local businessman, and a woman from a local women's center, to all come and talk about, number one, the importance of education, and to ask the questions and have this community discussion about, okay, this is here, how can we best benefit you? And while those questions are so useful and we got a lot of insight, there's also some things that are really hard to put into words. Unless you're there and experiencing it every day, some things seem so normal. So to think to ask questions about them can get lost sometimes. So we established for a short time a photo voice project, which is a type of ethnographic research where pretty much we give cameras to the kids and we say, okay, go take some photos of your community, of your friends, etc. And then we look back on the photos and have the kids talk to us about the photos, so we can really see what they're seeing and have them explain in their own voice how they really want to be represented to the international community, which is, I think, really important, especially when working with children. There can be so much misrepresentation and lack of voice. So I think that one was a really big win, and that gave me personally a lot of insight into how they see the world and how they see us specifically at the Kids Center. Yeah, I guess like just continuing to ask these really important questions, and a lot of figuring it out on the way, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess some of our biggest accomplishments have come out of, problems that arise in the moment that we have to sort things out in the best way that we see fit at that time. We recently, as Nicole mentioned, got 2 girls into school, and that complication arose only after, some serious family problems that they were having. And it was either we'd take action now, we had already been trying to create some kind of program around getting kids into school and getting them sponsorships. And we had a lot of good ideas floating around, but until, the pressure was on and we either were going to see these kids working in the street or going to school, we threw something together, and we've really ironed it out, and it's working pretty well now. So we're hoping to be able to get some more kids into school next year.
Absolutely.
But it is one of those things we're working as we go. And as horrible as it is, sometimes our best programs have come from the worst circumstances.
Yeah, wow. So what was the community's response to the Happy Kids Center once it was created?
Well, it was actually pretty magical because generally a lot of the locals are pretty skeptical of NGOs in Nepal, especially after the earthquake, because they watched so many people come in and throw money at things, throw projects together, and then leave. Some even pocketed money for their own organizations, which left Nepali people that we have spoken to a little bit skeptical.
Yeah.
But I think that Joanna, Kevin, and Chris did such a good job with the small amount of time that they had to really ask questions and really get involved and really make it a community effort, so it wasn't just these 3 foreigners coming in and building something. It was really a group community event, and because of that, the is actually amazing when you think about it. But the ex-Prime Minister of Nepal came to the opening ceremony and held a ceremony, and there was a giant parade and drums, and we went through the whole city, and yeah, everyone was dressed beautifully. I mean, it was definitely an event of the town, all coming to this and cutting the ribbon, and yeah, I think people really trusted us from the outset, which has led to our success, I think, as an organization.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah, it was insane.
So what are some of the challenges that your center has faced as a new organization, and how are you approaching these things, or how have you approached them in the past?
Yeah, so I'm gonna definitely ask for some expansion from Ellen on this, but as she's been on the ground and dealt with a multitude of unfathomable scenarios over there. So working with children has its own challenges, but starting as a new organization in general is also an interesting combination. So there was definitely a lot of political changes within our community, challenges with us personally for visas and with volunteers, and trying to balance, always trying to balance what's best for our kids and also bringing in volunteers. So volunteers are the basis of everything that we do. I mean, without them, we would not exist at all. And they've been an absolute blessing. People have gone over and beyond expectations. But with that comes a lot of new people and a lot of changes, and we always just have to check ourselves and say, okay, what is best for the kids? Is it okay to keep having as many people coming in? And we've definitely had to make some changes within our organization, kind of only asking for more long-term volunteers with specific projects. When we had to rebuild the structure, we just kind of have to problem solve and think on our feet and get creative a lot of the times, which has thankfully turned out really, really well for us. And I, when it comes to the more interpersonal things, I'm going to ask Ellen to jump in here because she's experienced quite a bit of things at the Happy Kids Center. So Ellen, you can take over from here.
Yeah, so I was there for about 4 months this past winter into spring. And my first experience there was, I guess, 2 to 3 months. And, it was a lot of fun and a lot of, it was definitely heartbreaking, walking through there where the children live, kind of in the slums, and kind of seeing the living conditions and adjusting to what life in Nepal is like. But going back the second time, having an idea of, the community and, the lifestyle there, I'm not just saying it was necessarily easier, when you see your kids rummaging through the trash in order to make ends meet to, feed their families every night. It doesn't get any easier seeing that, but you do become more well-adjusted to, just the way that the society works. However, I think the more time that I spent there this year, the more that I saw kind of the really intense cultural differences that you don't quite pick up on in the short term. So earlier this year, I attended a child marriage, and that was a really strange thing to experience. A couple of our girls from the center one was 16, one was 18, I guess, and they were, arranged to be married and taken out of school, actually. And this is because their father had died from an entirely treatable disease the year before, and their family couldn't afford to live any other way. And so, I'm walking into this, and it had already been planned, already been arranged. And Nicole, myself, and Joyce, and a couple of other, people who are involved with the center and just involved in the community, we tried to do everything that we could to stop it. But our hands were tied because, as we said, the core of what makes Happy Kids Center work is that the community respects us and we respect the community, and we have a relationship where we're not here to change anyone, and we're not here to change the society or the community or fix it. We're here to be a part of it and bring as much good as we can to it, and help them in the ways that we're being asked to help. So all that I could do in that situation was be there for the girls and support them and visit them in their new homes and, talk to them about things that in that society aren't necessarily talked about, but are going to be what keeps them physically and emotionally safe in this really strange time in their life. So that was definitely one major challenge, was in a Western society. Of course, that's something that we would jump in and say, no, this is absolutely not acceptable. You could call the police or call child services, but in this community I didn't have any of those options. So I, had to be there and experience that and just be as supportive as possible, witnessing something that I never thought that I would witness, or, be accepting of. And, I'm certainly not accepting of the culture around it, but in that situation, I had to be accepting of it. So, working in a community that's so different from our own, I think that's a major challenge, and trying to wrap our mind around these differences and these things that, I'm witnessing that to me feel absolutely abhorrent, but in their society is a cultural practice. That's definitely something that, creates a major challenge for Western, especially Western women to be witnessing. However, with that being said, now we're working on a program to try to work with the girls who we think could potentially be married off young, and hopefully be empowering them in a way, both like personally and financially, so that may not happen. Also trying to create a education sponsorship program that will keep the girls in school, and that families won't have to marry their girls off young for financial reasons and things of that nature. So that's definitely one of those things that you never get used to, but we're doing everything in our power to be preventative so that we don't have to step in and, kind of be entirely destructive of our place in the community. And then kind of with that in mind, also just the political challenges of the caste system. And sometimes it's hard recognizing that Chidani, she's a powerful person, she's a absolutely amazing person, but that sometimes she doesn't have the power in these political situations because of her caste, or that sometimes me going with her or going with her father gives them kind of more power in situations when I'm standing there having absolutely no idea what's going on. These things are really frustrating because their intellectual ability, and they're far more qualified to be handling these things than you are. So there's things of that nature, and the only thing that you can do in those situations is check yourself and recognize your privilege and your power, and utilize it when you can, but also make sure that you're reminding the people that you're working with that that while you have that power, that they're the ones who are getting things done, and not flaunting that or taking advantage of it in any way.
Yeah. And clearly you guys have been doing a lot, especially those edits you made of the program to help the girls that were being forced into child marriage. Do you guys have anything currently that you really want to accomplish? Any goals or anything that our listeners can donate to?
Oh man, we have a bazillion and one dreams that we want for the Kids Center and the community, but I think the most important right now are getting the kids off the streets and into school. developing a health program, because like we said, some of these parents are dying from the most treatable diseases. Like it's heartbreaking. I mean, yeah, it's health for the kids and their parents is extremely important to us, and the program to help end child marriage is something that we're working on a lot. Internally, it's really important for us to keep Nepali run and Nepali managed, so training as many locals as we can, so that they can be as self-sufficient as possible. It's really important for us, and Ellen, thank you for elaborating on that more, but it's really important for us to not come in and just be these foreign leaders. For me, it's really important for them to see themselves as leaders in their own communities. So just continuing at that with health, with education, with women's protection and empowerment, and as always, just bridging the gaps between the two ethnic groups that we have in our community, in our kids center. It's super important. And for the listeners, the best thing that you could do to help right now, as we're still in the planning phases of so many of the things that we're working on, is just to join our online community and hear our stories and just be involved. And if help is needed, help us spread the word and help us accomplish all of these dreams for all of these kids. It's the best that you could do.
Right now, we are not actively fundraising for any of our projects, and we'll definitely keep Givology updated on that if we do begin to. That in mind, as some of our listeners, and I'm sure you guys know, there's some pretty horrible flooding going on in South Asia and Nepal, India, Sri Lanka. And if anyone is looking to donate to any of these communities, there's some, awesome large-scale nonprofit organizations that are trying to do some rebuilding there. Havoc was wreaked not too long ago with the earthquake in these same areas, and all of the good that was done is, being torn back down quickly. So while we're in the planning phases, if people do want to donate and get involved, we can definitely direct you over there, because we have contact with some really cool kids that are accepting donations for rebuilding.
Yeah, that's great. So thank you so much for taking the time to participate in our Impact Series podcast. We're really excited to continue following the Happy Kids Center and the many developments to come.
Well, thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It's been really awesome talking with you.